Meetings, the bane of every corporate employee's existence. Can they be annoying? Yes. Could they have been an email? Sometimes. Are they avoidable? No. You'll need to learn how to prioritize your time effectively, especially regarding meetings if you're going to move up in your career in corporate. A few years back, I was in a job where I was triple booked 8 hours a day. I really wish I was exaggerating, but I am not. And if you think about it, that means that I'm not really doing any individual contributor work that's not distracted until 5 p.m. That's not fair to me. It's not fair to the people that work is serving. I had to figure out a better way to operate. I talked to a mentor of mine and he gave me a framework that I still use to this day, and it's helped out a lot of people that I've shared it with. Today, I'm going to share it with you. Now, I don't have a fancy name for this, but at its core, you're going to categorize all of your meetings into meetings that you own, meetings that you influence, or meetings that you need to have awareness of. Also, if you're new here, my name is Nikki. I make content all about how to make your life better and easier as you move up in your career, especially as your finances and available resources change. So an own meeting is one where you are the primary presenter, the primary decision maker, or for whatever reason, that meeting cannot happen without you. So this could be something like a one-on-one. It could be, if you are like an events coordinator, it could be like the actual event itself. Like you have to be running it behind the scenes, even if you're not the one that everyone is physically seeing. With own meetings, the critical thing to know is if you cannot attend, that meeting has to move. There's not someone that can cover it for you. Influence meetings are a little bit different. Those are ones where you are actively engaged in the meeting. You might be one of multiple presenters. You might be giving status updates. You might be giving an opinion on whatever decisions need to be made. But if needed, you could delegate that responsibility to someone else. They just would probably need some advance notice, maybe some context as to what's going on. The easiest way to spot an awareness meeting is if you have something recurring on your calendar and the only time you speak is when you come off mute the last 30 seconds and say, "Thanks guys, have a good day." These are meetings where you could get the notes from someone else, you could catch the recording of the meeting if there is one, but your presence in that meeting while it's actually happening is really not necessary. An exception to this is all hands meetings where attendance is mandatory, but that's likely not most of the time. A higher proportion of your meetings tend to be awareness when you are lower in your career, but they don't go away off of your calendar. And this is actually what causes a lot of the calendar clutter that you get as you move up in your career. Now, when I first started using this framework, I color coordinated everything on my calendar according to those own influence and awareness categories. That way I could clearly see, hey, I've got an own meeting here and an influence meeting here. That's where I would kind of do the evaluation and say, is it easier for me to pass off the knowledge that someone would need to cover me in this influence meeting, or do I need to move the own meeting? So a good example would be if you have a one-on-one, that is an own meeting, you can't have that meeting without one of the people in the one-on-one. But you also might have another meeting where you need to give an important status update. And maybe your peer can do that for you, but you would prefer to be there to answer the questions. You would want to move that own meeting to another time slot so that you can attend the influence meeting with your peers. Again, this isn't about the importance of one versus the other. It's about your involvement in the meeting. And keep in mind here, there could be an awareness meeting that is for an extremely important project that's going on. So as an example, as a director of product, there's often calls that I'm invited to review open defects before a large launch. Now, sometimes I need to know the details of all of those defects. Typically, I don't unless there is a really big one that is a potential showstopper. So for me, those awareness meetings, even though the project itself is really high priority, the meeting isn't as high priority for me because my involvement is just awareness. So I might be working on something that is further out in time, less important in this moment, but because I'm the decision maker or I'm the primary presenter or something like that, my time is better spent in those other meetings until that awareness level becomes really critical for me. So in the meantime, I'll either have someone from my team or one of my peers cover those calls for me and relay any critical information back, which again, usually there is nothing that I need to take action on. The value of this framework isn't even so much in a clear calendar. It's taking away the guilt of not attending things that you feel like you're supposed to be attending. You know, early on in your career, you're like excited to be in the room for all of these meetings, right? Because you get to see what's going on, you get to hear it, you get to feel it. And then you hit a point where you're invited to a lot of things and you're like, oh, this is kind of a lot. And then you hit another point in your career where you're like, I need to get as many meetings off of my calendar as I possibly can. But sometimes there's this feeling of, well, what if they need me, right? What if me not attending slows down a decision? And truly that's where you have to make this evaluation. But what you also have to realize is that other people in your organization are capable. Especially if you are a manager, you need to make sure that your team is capable of making certain decisions on their own. And that is part of their growth and their development. So as you implement a framework for deciding which meetings to decline, it will take away some of that guilt because you will have, your exact reasoning already laid out and a plan for how to make sure that those people can get the answers that they need. Now, if you're new to people management or you're thinking about becoming a people manager, you have to know that a lot of your time will be taken up with different tasks than you would have had in the past. And it is not quite what you would expect. And I have a whole video all about just what the reality of people management looks like. Now, I actually have a meeting that I need to run to, so I'll see you guys soon.